Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. Back finally. Yes, there's still a lot of stuff going on in my life. You know, it's hard to, do these with stuff going on personally, work, and all that kind of stuff. This last weekend I was at WonderCon, and of course that sucked up the time that I could have done this video. Since we're so kind of behind with the stuff, with comic reviews, I'm really just going to concentrate on the number one issues that have come out since the last review video. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of catch up, maybe do some double reviews of books. There's still a lot of books coming out that are good, and want to give a shout out to the comic book couple counseling, Brad and Lisa Gullickson, who do that podcast. I get to see them at WonderCon. They're really great. It's a wonderful podcast, and their love of comics is just absolutely amazing. So definitely check out that. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Definitely check out their podcast. It's really wonderful, and they do great interviews, and you get to know them, and that's what I really like about them and their podcast is that you get to know them. So their love of comics and everything, and definitely check out that podcast. If you're not listening to it, definitely add it to your queue. So with that being said, hopefully I'll be able to get I did record some of the panels at WonderCon this past weekend, so hopefully we'll get those up fairly soon. And let's just get to the comics. First up, we have Martian Manhunter #1, written by Dennis Camp, with artwork by Javier Rodriguez. So, with the other Absolute, it's still Martian Manhunter, but it's kind of a reimagined. So we're introduced to John Jones, who's an FBI agent, and he's at this coffee shop, and a man, blows himself up, and he survived the explosion, but there's kind of something going on. He kind of it's like his senses are heightened. He can hear things. He can hear people's thoughts. He kind of has different smells, and he kind of sees and smells things in color. And like I said, he when he goes and talks to people, he can hear their thoughts and stuff. So he thinks he's kind of going crazy, but he knows something happened at the comic shop, or at the coffee shop, not the comic shop, that has changed him. And I don't want to really spoil anything, but definitely you will see Martian Manhunter in the book, and you'll kind of when you get to the end of this first issue, you'll totally understand what John Jones is going through and what has happened at the event in the coffee shop. This was really good. I was really I had read it a while back. Thankfully, I get review copies from DC. But I couldn't review it because of the embargo. I can't break street date, and I don't want to. But I really, really love this book. I mean, this Camp's script is really amazing. He understands what makes Martian Manhunter, but also kind of gives it a new kind of spin, but without changing what made the character so amazing in the first place. And Javier Rodriguez artwork is just absolutely stunning. He recently did the Zatanna book. That was, if you haven't picked that up, there is a hardcover that came out. Definitely pick that up. That book's amazing. And the artwork is just absolutely stunning. And not only the artwork, but his color. He's doing the coloring himself, and it really just makes that book pop. And definitely, I really love this book. And the one thing you have to do is make sure you buy a print copy, because there's something at the end of the issue that only works in print. It will not work digitally. So definitely pick it up. Pick up the physical book, because that thing really is amazing. It's kind of a trick, and it's kind of been done before, but not that I can remember in many recent years. So I highly recommend this book. It's a really must buy comic. Next up, we have Out of Alcatraz #1, written by Christopher Cantwell, with artwork by Tyler Crook. So what this is in 1962, there were three men that escaped from Alcatraz, and their bodies were never found. So that, there was always a mystery. Did they drown? Did they get away? but there was never any, they never did solve, or they never did find any bodies or anything. So what Cantwell has done here is he's created a story of the three men that escaped. One of them drowns, so there's only two left, and they head to, they're hiding out in Modesto. They once they get out, there's a mysterious lady that they connect with that knows that they're escaping and everything, and has like a hideout for them and stuff like that, and clothing. But she's actually working for somebody else, and obviously we don't know, but it seems like, she's been put into this situation, for reasons unknown. Like there's something maybe that's being held above her head. And once again, she's going to get them to Canada so they can, and they'll have to work off what would be owed to them to get them across the border and all this kind of stuff. It really is an interesting story. And then of course, Crook's artwork is really, really amazing. I'm a big fan of his artwork, and it really is, it's kind of, in some ways you could say it's kind of in the vein of a murder mystery, the situation, but it's really, really good and really intriguing. Plus, being a period piece, adds some neat elements to the story that Cantwell can kind of play with there. It's really interesting, and there's a nice twist at the end. So I really like this. It is well worth checking out. I really enjoyed this book. Next up, we have From the World of Minor Threats, Welcome to Twilight, #1, with the script by Matt Fraction, and then the story plotting by Matt Fraction, Patton Oswalt, and Jordan Bloom, with artwork by Michael Allred. So what this book is, it's individual stories. They're one-shot stories, but it's kind of a mini-series. So, like, the next issue will have a completely different creative team and a different hero from the Minor Threats universe. And so what this one is, it's Ben Brockman. When he was born, he has wings, but he can't fly because he has the normal weight of a human. He doesn't have hollow bones like birds have, so he could fly. So he basically becomes this television star, and there's no gray area. He plays Don Johnson in Miami Vice. And so that's where what he did, but now he's kind of an outer work actor, and he's doing the autograph circuit, like at comic conventions and stuff like that. And so he kind of gets mixed up with this girl who's a mermaid. And then there's also what it is she's not so much she's being held by the mob, but there's this character that kind of holds, is kind of taking care of her, so to say. And then he wants to rescue her because he kind of falls in love with her. It really was quite interesting. And the great thing about this is a one and done. You do not have to read any of the previous Minor Threats books. It definitely gives you an idea of what, if you've read the other ones, it helps you kind of understand, but this does stand on its own, so you don't have to read those. But I'd say if you do like this, definitely check out, there's been the main books, and then there's been some spin-offs, miniseries, and they all take place in the same universe, but they're on their own. So I really picked this up because I'm a huge fan of Michael Allred. And to have Fraction and Allred back together again after their run on Fantastic Four is a real treat. So, definitely pick it up. Like I said, if you haven't read Minor Threats, I think this is a good kind of, not so much jumping point, but this will give you kind of like what the things in Minor Threat, because like I said, every creative team does different things, but that's what's really great about this universe is that Oswald and Bloom have created, is that other creators can come in and they can kind of create their own characters and just have fun in this universe. And it's really good. I really like this one, and definitely really well worth checking out. Next up, we have Herculoids #1, written by Tom Snigoski. I apologize if I messed it up, which I probably have. And artwork by Craig Rousseau. So what this is based on the 60s Hanna-Barbera series, the Herculoids. And as with most Hanna-Barbera kind of superhero shows, there really is, there's not much of a backstory. I mean, what it is there's the planet Quasar, which we will learn that it's also called, the actual name is Amzot. But what it is so this story sets up, it kind of, there's this mythology about this planet that has all sorts of resources and everything, but there's a family that protects this world from people, invading, basically. That is Xandor, Egu, Zoc, Tundro, Dorno, Gloop, and Gleep, and Tara. So what it is Xandor, Tara, and Darno are the humans, and Egu, Zoc, Tundro, and Gloop and Gleek are kind of the creatures. And what it is there's this guy that's looking for this planet. There was a man who inadvertently their ship went there, and he was like the only one that survived. So this guy gets the information from him where this planet is, so they can come and take the resources and make money off the planet. This first issue is a real setup. Tom is really laying out the world and kind of introducing you to the characters. So if you are familiar with the animated series from the 60s, this first issue is going to be kind of like you know what's going on. But it's good for new readers or people that have never seen the Herculoids from, say a younger generation. Then it's good for them because he does a really good job of introducing. So this first issue has a lot of exposition in it, which is kind of tough because there's not a lot of story per se in this first issue. But once again, he's building. So as the story goes along, now that the characters, he can get along with the story. And Rasu's artwork is really, really nice. He does a really good job of capturing the style of, the Hanna-Barbera period. A lot of that look was done by Alex Toth. So it has a very simplistic look, and Rousseau really keeps that look, going, which is really smart. But it shows a lot of promise. I'm a huge Herculoids fan. I love that animated series. I'm a big fan of all the kind of hero stories that Hanna-Barbera did back in the 60s. And like I said, I wasn't necessarily blown away by this first issue, but I liked what Tom and Craig did, and I think they can build from this first issue. So I'm looking forward to see where they really take it. And I think the second issue is going to be a key to where they're going to go with the story. And also kind of develop the characters that was never really done in the original animated series. Next up, we have The Last Boy, #1, written by Dan Pansion, with artwork by Alessio Avallone. So what this is it's a Peter Pan story. Now it's set in the future from, say, the original Peter Pan story. Most people probably know the Disney version of it, which does follow the original story fairly well. But it takes place many years later. Wendy is an adult, and Hook and Smead are also older. And Tiger Lily is now the chief of the Indians, and Peter and Tinkerbell have never really aged, so he's still kind of Hook's the bad guy and everything, but things have kind of changed in Neverland, where Hook and the Indians now have a pact. They work together. He sells them stuff, and then they have an agreement to help each other. He captures pelts for them, and things and vice versa. They sell stuff to each other, where Pan is Hook is bad and everything. So there is something that happens at the end of the issue. I will not spoil it, but it was interesting. I don't know that I was particularly bowled over by this first issue. I think there's some interesting concepts here. And there's been many attempts at doing a Peter Pan story, whether it's, kind of redoing the other one, or we have seen these kind of stories where it's they obviously the film Hook with Robin Williams, he's older and things like that. But in this case, Pantheon has aged not only Wendy, but like Captain Hook and Smeed, which I think gives it an interesting thing. But like I said, we'll kind of see where it goes. I liked it. I just didn't quite love this first issue. I will say Avalon's artwork is really, really nice. It's a really good-looking book. I don't know that I was totally sold. So you might want to look at it at your comic shop and kind of see what you think. Next up, we have Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four, #1, written by Ryan North, with pencils by John Romita Jr., and inks by Scott Hanna. So now this is the first of a number of one-shots where they have Godzilla meet different characters in the Marvel Universe. And the main reason I picked this one up, because the current writer of Fantastic Four is Ryan North, and I'm a big fan of his writing. I will say, I have seen reviews of this refer to it as a cash grab, and I guess you could say it, but if you're a fan of Fantastic Four and a fan of Godzilla, then it's fun. I think the nice thing about this, it's a one and done. It totally stands on its own. The basic story is that Godzilla comes to New York, and the Fantastic Four, are trying to stop him from destroying New York. And then what we find out is King Ghidorah is now the Herald of Galactus, and King Ghidorah has cosmic powers, and then Silver Surfer comes to Earth and says, hey, this is Godzilla's Herald, he's coming for you. And so what it is he gives his cosmic power to Godzilla, so you have Cosmic Godzilla and Cosmic Ghidorah go against each other. It's, look, the story's pretty basic. It's not mind-numbingly brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, but I think North has a fun time with it. Godzilla feels like Godzilla, and Fantastic Four feel like Fantastic Four, which I think when you're doing these type of crossovers, that's the most important part, is that they should feel like each other. And they do, and that's smart. And once again, I've said this many times, and this is not a knock. I'm not necessarily the biggest John Romita Jr. fan, but he does a really nice job here, and I think a lot of that, I've always been, to me, his pencils are really dependent on who inks him. And I think in this case, Scott Hanna has done a really nice job with the inking. It looks really, really great. And, it's definitely... it's a lot of fun. So if you're a fan of both of those, I think it's worth picking up. Just know the story is pretty simple, but it's simple, but it's a lot of fun. So that's for me well worth the price of admission. Next up, we have Secret Six, #1, written by Nicole Main, with artwork by Steven Segovia. So what this is this is post Absolute Power. So this is kind of a new team. It's Dreamer, John Kent, and Jay Nakamura, who, John and Jay are in a relationship, and now Jay has powers post Absolute Power. And they discover that Amanda Waller is missing, so they kind of go and they try to find him, and then of course they end up teaming up with Deadshot, Catman, and Black Alice to find out what's going on. And that's kind of the basic story. Honestly, I didn't really care for this one too much. Part of it is, there's been a number of Secret Six stories over the year, which is kind of, they're similar to like Suicide Squad in some respects. That's kind of, a good way of saying the elevator pitch for it. But it just kind of like was there. It's not that it was, terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I felt the story was kind of okay. I didn't really, really care much about the characters. Segovia's artwork's nice. It's an okay book, but I think, with so many books, and, look, I'm pretty much just reviewing #1 books. With so many books coming out, it's just one of those things. I just don't think it's good enough. I think it's okay. I don't think it's terrible. If you enjoy it, great. I'm all, we all have different opinions about stuff. I just found the book to be okay, and just, really didn't do much for me. But, you may like it, but I would definitely be cautious about, picking it up. Next up is We're Taking Everyone Down With Us, number 1, written by Matthew Rosenberg with artwork by Stefano Landini. So what this is Annalise, she's a 13-year-old girl who her father's a mad scientist. So and what it is her mother was killed, and so dad, he's always doing these experiments and stuff, and so he has these robots who are not only guards, but they kind of help take care of her because he's so busy creating. He is like the bad guy. There is no gray area. He is kind of the villain, and so he doesn't have time for his daughter. And she discovers a secret. There's been a man in a jail under the house. She discovers that, and we also find out that he's basically a villain. And so then I don't really want to spoil anything, but there's a change, something that happens to both him, something that happens to him that will now affect Annalise. And it has to do with the mad scientist and robots. That's all I'll say. I don't want to really give anything away. I like this first issue. There's obviously a lot of exposition. I will say the good thing about it is it's kind of a double-sized issue, so you get a lot of bang for the buck here because you're almost getting 2 issues worth of story, and that's a good way to look at it. But it does definitely set things up for a really interesting what will happen next after the events of this first issue. So I like I said, I enjoyed it. I think it's a really good setup. And it gives me a good reason to come back. And then Landini's artwork is really, really nice. It's a good looking book, good story. Yeah, I think this is well worth checking out. Next up, we have Jumpscare number 1, written by Colin Bunn with artwork by Danny Luckert. So what this is this girl, she's a hero, and what it is, the city is kind of being overrun by monsters that are killing people. And so she has the power of horror films. So we'll use the example, not that it does any of this stuff. Like Freddy Krueger, she could make his claw appear and attack the monster and, save the people. Or she could become Leatherface and pull out a chainsaw. So what it is she goes around town, she's kind of a vigilante superhero. And she was given the power, and because she liked horror movies so much, that was the power that was given to her. It's to kind of make horror films come to life. She's able to make them come to life. And we find out within the story that she's estranged from her parents because they're very, she loved horror films and stuff like that, and they were very religious and very, this is not good. You shouldn't be watching those kind of films. And so there's something that happens within the family to her sister where they have to come and get the older daughter to help them find her sister, and she obviously wants to find her sister. I really like this first issue. It was the premise is really good. It had a really neat story. It's definitely not for the squeamish. There's quite a bit of blood in there, obviously the horror angle, but it was a lot of fun, and that was kind of the thing. It wasn't really so much a horror book per se, although it had its horror elements, but it had a really fun attitude that went with the story. And Luckart's art is really nice. This is really a gorgeous book. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I think it's well worth checking out. So definitely look for that one. Next up, we have Mouse Guard Dawn of the Black Axe, number 1, written by Dave Peterson, with artwork by Gabriel Rodriguez. Now, it's been quite a while since there's been a new Mouse Guard book. Now, usually Dave Peterson writes and draws it, but there have been times where other creators have either written or drawn and, some of the Mouse Guard stories. So it's not a surprise that Gabriel Rodriguez, who's really known for Lock and Key, to do the artwork. And while some people who are not necessarily familiar with, say, Mouse Guard, it has... I wouldn't say that it definitely looks like Dave Peterson's artwork. I mean, it has a similarity because it takes place in the same universe, but it definitely feels like Gabriel Rodriguez for sure. But the good thing is, if you've never read Mouse Guard before, you've never read Mouse Guard before, the Black Axe story, you could totally you can just jump right in, just knowing that it's a story about different mice clans. And so what this story is about is how the Black Axe ended up in how it got to the town, to Bartrick, and the story of how the axe came to them. And because what it is they're the villages, the kind of country where the mice live, the different towns, is being attacked by snakes. And so one of the warriors from the town takes the Black Axe and goes out to defend the realm, basically. And that's the basic setup in this first issue. Once again, the artwork in these have always been incredible, whether it's Peterson or, in this case, Gabriel. It's really a gorgeous looking book. It's kind of like very, very fantasy oriented. Think of say something like along the lines of like Lord of the Rings, but with mice. In the sense of, it has that epic tone to it. So like I said, I've read Mouse Guard over the years. It's really great to have it back. And with the addition of Gabriel Rodriguez's artwork, this is a big win. So like I said, it's not so much that it definitely stands on its own. If you've never read Mouse Guard, you can just jump right in and get this book. So we're checking out. Next up, we have Absolute Flash, #1, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Nick Robles. So once again, just like with the Martian Manhunter, it takes the characters we know and kind of looks at them at a different angle. Both of them and their villains in this case. So this Flash is Wally West, and he is the son of Colonel Rudy West. That is his father, and then Barry Allen is actually a scientist that works with Colonel West. And so they're working on experiment Project Olympus. And while we know that something happened, there was something that happened with Project Olympus, which obviously gave Wally the power. But we kind of don't know everything. We just know that he has power, but we kind of don't know the entire story yet. And that's really an interesting thing. I like what Lemire has done there with, kind of telling the story and setting it up, but not giving all the pieces of the puzzle yet. There's still a lot of mystery involved. What has happened to Barry? What has happened to his father? And what's going on with Wally? Because he has these powers, but he still obviously doesn't quite know what to do. But I think the other interesting thing that Lemire does here is, we get to see some of, the Flash's rogues. And that's interesting because, introducing him that soon, kind of throws a lot of stuff into the mix. And Robles' artwork is really, really nice. I really enjoyed this. I'm a big fan of Lemire's work. So it is well worth picking up. And like I said, with the story's great, Robles' artwork is really great, and there's a lot of mystery here, and I really like that. And worth checking out. These two, both this and Absolute Manhunter, are definitely must-buys, and really build some really more great foundation in the Absolute universe. So definitely check it out. Next up, we have Pop Kill #1, written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Dave Johnson, with artwork by Juan Santa Cruz. So what the story of this is, there's two dominant cola companies, and they're always competing with each other. So what's interesting, it's each one's owned by a twin brother, and of course, obviously they hate each other. How brothers sometimes do, and sisters for that matter can hate each other. So what it is they're always hiring assassins, saboteurs, and espionage to find out each other's secret. Now one of them has come up with a new kind of like formula to keep sodas from going flat. So obviously the other brother is really trying. He discovers about it, and he's trying to find it out. So basically, it's like the Cola War, but on a whole different level, not just like, oh, we introduced a new cola, so we'll introduce a new cola, and our cola is better than yours. No, it's not in marketing. It's like they're literally going after each other. And it's like the concept is really like, you're like at first you're like, that sounds really stupid. And it kind of is, but that's why it works so well, is because it's the concept's so simple. And that's why it works, because it's not kind of overthought or overdone. It's just, and then you have kind of the espionage aspect, kind of like the Mission Impossible part of this to this just regular Cola War. It's really, really neat. I have to give Palmiotti and Johnson. The story is really a lot of fun, and it's definitely has an adult skew to it. There's a bit of violence and sex and stuff like that. But nothing gratuitous or, everything fits into the story quite well. And then Santa Cruz's artwork is nice. It does a really nice job of conveying everything. And it's just a fun little book. Now, originally this book was a Kickstarter book. And then now Mad Cave is putting out the book in individual issues. It was available originally as graphic novels. So if you were part of the Kickstarter, this is just reprinting that. But if you didn't see the Kickstarter, this is definitely it's well worth checking out. And I really had a lot of fun with this book, so kind of well worth checking out. Next up, we have Peacemaker presents the Vigilante Eagly double feature #1. So now there's 2 stories in here. James Gunn is the story consultant on both of them. So the Vigilante story is written by Tim Seeley with artwork by Mitch Gerrits. And then the Eagly story is written by Rex Ogle with artwork by Matteo Lally. So we'll kind of go through each one, because each one's kind of half the issue. So Peacemaker has disappeared to the Vigilante, who is Adrian Chase, and he's kind of on this mission to find him. And so he we know that there's crime bosses of Evergreen. And so, he kind of breaks up this meeting between these 2 crime bosses, but he's also looking for Vigilante. But what he doesn't know, and this leads into because the stories are kind of connected. They're separate, but kind of connected. We learn that Eagly and Peacemaker are going on vacation. So that was set up, and then we'll get to the Eagly story. And obviously, Adrian's not necessarily playing with a full deck, and he's not kind of all together. So, we kind of get a taste of like, is he really, doing good? Is he really going after him? We don't know. It's crazy, but, Seeley's story is really good, and Jared's artwork is always a win. So, once again, we're only getting kind of half of a book. So, but like I said, they are connected. So it's interesting, and this definitely is from the world of James Gunn Peacemaker's television show. So now the next story with Eagly is, so they're on the, they've decided to take a vacation after they've defeated some Nazi lizard people. So they're on a plane to Alaska, and the plane is taken over by this masked villain who gasses everybody, but obviously they're looking for Peacemaker, so there's that. And then, once again, it's just, you're getting kind of half of a story, but you're getting 2 stories, but it's kind of one story in a way. So they're separate but connected in that because of different teams. And then the like I said, the Eagly story is good, and Lolly's artwork is nice. It's off to a good start. And once again, you have to remember, you're only kind of getting half. You're getting a whole story, but it's kind of broken in half. So, but I like it, especially if you're a fan of the Peacemaker television show. It was well worth checking out in that respect. But I could also say that in this case, because of the half stories, this might be something for some people that is worth trade waiting for it, where it's all collected at once and you can read the whole thing. So, and that'll be interesting when they do collect it. Are they gonna run, each story together? Are they gonna print it like it's printed in the individual? It'll be interesting to see. I'm guessing they'll probably print it like the individual. Next up, we have Assorted Crisis Events #1, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Eric Zadowski. So I will say this is really a weird book, but it kind of makes sense in a very bizarre way. So you kind of have to go with it. one thing about the story is there is a lot going on. It's kind of sensory overload in some respects. What the basic story is there's this girl Ashley who lives in the red light district. So the red light district it's kind of like there's different people from different time periods living and mingling throughout this area. So she goes off to she has this family clock. It's just an average clock, but it stopped working. She wants to get it fixed, so she goes out, and they're making a film, and they're blowing stuff up and everything. But you might see an alien, you might see a caveman as you're walking down the street. And so there's kind of all these mishmash of different time periods and everything, but there's also things that can happen. They'll send out warnings, like where people get stuck in time loops, and like they're basically kind of dead, but they're stuck. They're just stuck between time, and they're not going to get out of it. So there's all these things could like the world, the street could open up and you could fall in, and that would be it. So once again, they're crisis events, and she tries to lead this normal life, and then she's coming back home, and then she gets back home and everything, and then all of a sudden there's this big explosion stuff outside, and it's like, oh, are they filming again? And there is something bigger going on, like something is going on, like maybe all the times are collapsing on each other. We don't know, because that's just the craziness at the end of this first issue. Like I said, there's a lot to take in, and there's a lot going on, but I think the smart thing that Camp did here was that Ashley, you focus on Ashley, she takes you through the story. So there is all this crazy stuff going on, but you go with it because you're following her story. So that really is a big help. And I will say, Zdowski's artwork is really incredible. There's so much detail and so much going on in this book. It is really amazing. And once again, it's another book that's kind of double sized. So you're getting a lot of story here. You're almost getting really 2 issues worth of stuff. And it really is intriguing. It's one of those things, there's a lot to take in, and there's more questions than answers, but there's so much to like about this book that I'm really excited to see where they take it in the second issue, because like I said, there's a ton going on here. So we're checking out, like I said, the artwork is absolutely fantastic. And finally, we have DC and Sonic the Hedgehog #1, written by Adam Bryce with artwork by Matt Hermes. Once again, there's 2 things going on. It's a basic crossover. You have the main Justice League character. You have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, and Green Lantern. And then you have all the Sonic characters. You have Sonic, Amy, Tails, Knuckles, Silver, and Shadow. And so what it is that Darkseid has come to the Sonic universe, and the gems have power. So once again, Darkseid comes to your world and wants to destroy it. Not a big shock. Once again, this is definitely geared towards, I'd say, a younger audience. But it's the story is, it's pretty basic and everything, but it's fun. And if you're a fan of like DC and Sonic, it's a nice little crossover. It's something especially good for, say, younger readers and stuff. But it's not, first and foremost, the story's not going to blow you away. It's pretty basic and everything. But the fact that they're kind of using Darkseid as a villain is, for me, actually like, oh, I'm impressed, because they could have just used a pretty basic villain, where Darkseid is definitely a big baddie. And the big thing that it was really smart for Bryce is that the characters feel like when you're reading the Justice League characters, they feel like the Justice League. When you're reading the Sonic characters act like Sonic characters, and that's really what you need. And once again, this is not really aimed, at like an older audience per se, but it is fun, and it's a light book, and sometimes having a light book is not necessarily a bad thing. And in Hermes' artwork, it's nice. He does a really good job. It definitely leans on the a bit cartoony side. The Sonic characters definitely look like them. And then the Justice League's kind of, they definitely look like the Justice League, but they're kind of simplified in some ways, which is, once again, smart for this kind of book. It's not mind-numbingly brilliant, but it was fun for what it was. So if you have, younger kids and stuff, this is a really, pretty decent book for them. Because it's not, I wouldn't say that it's definitely written for children. It's not really high level reading, but it's not really dumbed down either, which is also smart. So, that's going to do it this week, or at this point, it seems like a month. Sorry about that. Hopefully we'll kind of get back on track. It's just been crazy. Things are kind of calming down, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner, the owner, runs a great store. If you're in the Long Beach area, definitely check it out. Like I said, Ryan, the owner's there. Annie, Wendy, you can check out they're on social medias. Pulp Fiction Comics Long Beach they have the website, and he offers discounts on trades and graphic novels every day. And they have a pull service, so you make sure you don't miss any of your books. So like me, I've been reading books the whole time, but I just haven't had a chance to do the review videos. But because I have a pull service there, all the books he saves them for me. So if I miss a week for some reason, like Comic-Con, they'll still be there when I get back. And it's just a really good comic store. And as always, please support your local comic shop. With, Diamond filing for bankruptcy, everything's crazy right now. Make sure that if you do order your books ahead of time, make sure you pick them up, because they have to pay for them before you do. Really just support your local comics shop. As best you can. I know times are tough for all of us, but like I said, if you order something, make sure you pick it up. And as always, we end our show with be kind to each other, be kind to yourself. The world's crazy right now. Everything's crazy. But being kind to others is really important, more so than I think ever in almost my lifetime, which I've sadly been around for a long time. It's really important that we be kind to each other, no matter what our differences are, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we should all be kind to each other. And also, please be kind to yourself. Like I said, I've been going through a lot of stuff. I'm fine, but it adds a lot of little things add up after a while, and that's part of one of the reasons why I haven't been able to do the videos, is because, things have been so crazy that sometimes you need to take time for yourself, and that's very important. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and just take care of yourselves. That's going to do it. Hopefully we'll kind of get back on track. Like I said, I recorded some panels at WonderCon, so we'll hopefully get those up. I'll get those up soon. But thanks for, there's been a lot of people reaching out. I'm fine. Everything's good. It's just, a lot of little things in life just, adding up after a while. But take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. Support your local comic shop. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. We'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.